Hello, welcome back to What is this weapon? And this one's pretty weird. I know we say that a lot, but some of you have probably already thought, I think I recognise the general arrangement of this thing and the sort of knuckle dustery nature of it. Quite a handful, but you can get your hand through that. Being careful not to point the barrel at your own head. You could hold it that way up, but then your knuckle would be unprotected. We'll explore more on this in a moment. But yes, this is clearly a revolver. Has a revolving cylinder behind a fixed barrel, although there's a caveat there I'll explain in a moment. And the grip of the revolver is, of course, your knuckle duster impact component, as it were. Now, watch out on the top of this thing when I pull the grip out and lock it into place. Up pops a tiny little rear sight. So, before I go any further, what on earth is this thing? Doesn't have a name. Well, it's nicknamed, if you do an online search, or you might find it in a book, it is nicknamed the Commando revolver, or Enfield Commando revolver. It's definitely a product of Enfield, the Royal Small Arms factory, specifically the design department at Enfield. But whether it's intended for commandos or not is definitely open to question, and I suspect not. So, it's a very bulky knuckle duster and a revolver. It's a double action revolver. This is clear, so I'm just going to pull the trigger a couple of times to show you that it is in fact double action. There's no external hammer to get snagged. I think that's also why the rear sight is designed to pop up, because if that was always sticking up, that could snag on clothing as you were drawing this from concealment. That might be a hint as to who the intended users might be. This gives you a fairly substantial grip, and the trigger is full size. And the double action pull isn't bad, actually. Not awful by any means. Now, before we get too far away from the knuckle duster aspect of this is probably what some of you were thinking of. This thing is clearly inspired by this British wartime, Second World War era, revolver knuckle duster thing. Is clearly based on this French 1870s knuckle duster, revolver, and knife known as the Apache, named after the street gang from Paris that went by that name. This is also a double action revolver, or it was when it worked. And it's pin fire, so it has the little holes for the firing pin that's stuck out of those cartridges. So it's an earlier system of ignition, but it really is quite similar. And if we reveal another feature on this so-called Commando revolver by unscrewing the barrel, which takes a while, bear with me. So removable, smooth bore, extended barrel there. And it is designed to line up very precisely with the stub of the threaded main barrel. So this is a fully smooth bore, flush fitting barrel extension. But if you take that off and we remove the little stowage clip for this item, which is a thread protector, a knurled thread protector, so that you don't damage the threads on this, and you thread that into place. And then you fold down this feature here. There's a catch on the underside that keeps this locked in place. Press the catch, fold up rather than down, fold up the blade. Well, there you are. That is the 1942 British take on the 1870s French Apache revolver knuckle duster knife thing. So I'll set that aside. Speaking of naming and the genesis of this thing, electro-penciled on the side, which is a sort of light form of engraving you'll see on a lot of British military arms, is a marking. It's So it's not a name per se, but it does include the name. So it's PR 9mm. So that's pistol, comma, revolver, comma, 9mm. So that's its only name. Bit generic, but there were no other 9mm revolver pistols in the British service, so that would have done. It would have become Mark I had it been adopted, presumably. And it has that reference underneath, DD brackets E3313. So that's Design Department brackets Enfield. It's where a lot of these almost sort of Q branch type setup, not the Churchill's toy box of the SOE station, but not a million miles away with some of the crazy stuff they came up with, and some very good stuff as well. So it's interesting that it's the only time, well, not the only time, well, it's the only time I've seen engraved on a firearm its drawing number, and we are able to pull that out of the archive and show you a scan of that, which is convenient because it means that you can see the lockwork in here without me taking it apart, because this is unique and I wouldn't want to take it apart unless I really needed to. Which brings me to its construction. This is a clamshell steel stamping pressing arrangement. So two halves of sheet metal pressed into a curved or a sort of beveled edge shape and then screwed together. Two screws at the front there. There's then a machined, well, this is a machined block. There's a machined block for the trigger mechanism. Obviously the cylinder is machined from steel. And this block at the front is machined from steel. But it's all held together by a receiver made of sheet metal, which you can see the edges of either side. So, in theory, very cheap to make, very quick to make, ideal for wartime. And we can actually take the cylinder out. It's the only way to load it or to reload it. So that involves pressing down on this catch here in order to then be able to press down on these two catches, a bit like a Glock disassembly arrangement. These two tabs, press those down, catch your glove on them instantly. Happens every time. Try and get it clear. There we go. Oh, no. It's designed to catch nitrile gloves, unfortunately. Let's see if I can get it started and then push it the rest of the way. There we go. So those tabs to the bottom, and you can see they're protruding from the bottom. We will then have to pull the barrel forwards enough that the cylinder can then pop out, and you would have to use a stick or something. Well, you could perhaps use the bayonet. Wouldn't recommend it. And the chambers in there, you may not be able to see, but the chambers in there are two diameter, so that the case rim of the 9mm round won't fall through the cylinder. Typically, revolver rounds have a rim, and 9mm doesn't have a rim. So rather than use a moon clip or something, this thing uses a defined chamber, so that the neck of the case sits against that and doesn't just drop through, which would cause problems. This thing would jam up if the bullet could drop forwards. That lets us see a little bit of the barrel arrangement. So if I poke that back out into the gun, well, if I just move it back and forth, perhaps, you can see that that is indeed a very short smoothbore barrel with that thread at the front for attaching the extension, a little spigot for the front of the cylinder, and there's a spigot at the back, recessed into the body of the revolver for the back of the cylinder, and the ratchet teeth sit in an annular groove, effectively, or one that's created by the spigot and the body of the gun. I hope that makes any sense at all. If not, hopefully our footage will explain what I mean. So, in other words, to put the cylinder in, loaded with 9mm, 5 rounds, push the barrel forwards to clear that spigot out of the way, and then you drop your cylinder in, and it will come out the other side if you're not careful. That sort of crenellated arrangement of ratchet teeth drops into that groove, and then you set your barrel back again, and you've got to line it all up. This is not something to be done while you're in combat. By needless to say, you've got to start punching and stabbing if you fire all 5 shots. So you've got to locate the barrel spigot down into the front, because it's those 2 things that are, there's no axis pin going through the middle of the cylinder. That would have been a better way to explain it. So you've got 1 peg at the back, 1 peg at the front, holding the cylinder in. And then you've got to make sure you remember to pop these ears up to lock the whole thing back in. So very complex to reload. You've got 5 shots, and then you are using some other feature of the weapon. Now the sight is weird, because I called it a rear sight. Well, it's on the rear of the gun, but there isn't a front sight, and there's no front sight on the barrel. So it's a sight. It's not just a rear sight. I presume at some point, had this gone further into development, they would have put a little blade at the front somehow, but this has been engineered to drop into the gun. There's been no arrangement for a front sight to do similarly. So I guess that's good enough as a sort of quick aiming thing. I would have thought some sort of channel in the top of the gun would have been the way to do quick instinctive shooting with something like this, but hey, I don't design firearms, certainly not in wartime. I haven't spoken about the blade, so it's an unusual profile, quite tapered, almost sort of almost like a long thin triangle. It has it has no fuller. It's just the 2 edges, and then a sort of fairly ill-defined sort of forte area here, and obviously the pivot point down here. The tip is incredibly blunt, and in fact, in profile, it's blunt as well. It's not just that the tip has come off. If we look at the drawing, it looks pretty blunt on there as well. So this would not be a great stabbing implement, and it could be sharpened. I suspect that was to some extent the idea, but they haven't left enough a tip on there to be very pointy and effective. So maybe the idea was more that it was a slashing weapon up close, and you would sharpen the edges. I don't think so, because deploying the thing would, if it was sharpened, highly likely to cut yourself with that. So I guess it's a knife blade by virtue of blunt force trauma, and it just gets shoved in. Of course, it's not necessarily designed to be used like a bayonet. You're perhaps more likely to reverse your grip and stab down with it, or it's very awkward to sort of pronate your wrist and stab with it. So who knows? We'd have to ask the users, and there weren't any, as far as we know. So trying to put it all together, we've got a date of 1942, which may or may not help. The round doesn't really help, because in 42 they were actually investigating the possibility of rechambering the No. 2 revolver to take 9mm parabellum, like this takes. So that would have been a general service weapon, not specific to commandos or anyone else. It's clearly designed for concealment, for close quarter fighting. The only possible user that we can think of would be Special Operations Executive. So normally they would be making their own weapons, but it's possible that Enfield was doing this in-house, perhaps because they had some experience with some sheet metal manufacturer at that point. I don't know. I'm speculating wildly. As ever, if anyone has any thoughts, especially if they have any information, please do let us know. It's a unique thing. We're very fortunate to have it. It's another kind of dead end, didn't go anywhere, but it's very World War II in terms of its construction and its intended purpose, but then it reflects an already quite old design by that time from the streets of Paris. Thanks for watching, guys. If you'd like to see a little bit more behind the scenes with these videos, you can head over to TikTok, where we now have an active channel, so do check us out there. Otherwise, the usual things apply. We have 3 museums you can visit if you're in the UK. We have our website that you can look at. Especially keep an eye on the events program, because there might be something coming up in the next month or so that you might like to come and check out at one of our sites. But whatever you do, join us here again next week.